Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation this evening with Mr. N.R. Gajendran, no stranger to this program. He's of course a well-known tax consultant, but my question to him today is very simple, and I know that everybody in Sri Lanka wants to know the answer to this. Let's find out, shall we? Very good evening and welcome, Mr.
Good evening.
Gajendran.
Good to be
Mr.
here.
Gajendran, you know, for months now, I've been asking the same question. Most of our politicians don't really have an answer, but you, being a tax consultant and privy to all sorts of business people's affairs and so on, what is it that this government can do now, today, to regenerate, to reinvigorate whatever it is, to receive dollars again? We obviously have no foreign currency, even to pay for the full complement of fuel that this country needs. So we've got what little we have, and that's the distribution is very well, so there's hardly a queue, but that's not the point. How do we get these dollars in? Is it so difficult? Please tell me.
For us, we are experiencing a multiple crisis, multiple catastrophes, political, economical, social, and whole heap of catastrophes. It has struck at the same time. Many of them are man-made. Now, this is like a patient having multiple illness which are deadly and terminal. You know, you can't treat one illness for the time being and leave the other one. Everything has to be managed in tandem. There will be negative, positive consequences in treating one illness on the other. Similarly, we have to do multiple things at the same time. There is no time. We have run out of time. Technically, we are bankrupt. That's what you are saying, and which is the correct state of affairs.
Right.
So now, on the political front,
Yeah.
I think all parties should come together immediately and fix a time frame for this general election. Immediately they have to come together, because the legislature has no credibility now, no legitimacy at least, right? They are not in sync with the people.
Yeah.
But for obvious reasons, even many of the parliamentarians, they don't want an election sooner or later, right? If they can box on like this, they will box on. That is one thing. Then the other thing what the magnitude wants, which is crying for, is to abolish the presidency. So you have to fix a time for 19/8 or plus to come in, and then also, you know, sooner than later.
Yes, I hear what you say, but 62% of Sri Lanka's working population are daily waged.
Yeah.
How can we, with any sense
Yeah.
of compassion,
Yeah.
ask them to wait? Wait for what?
You can't wait. So that's what I'm saying. You have to do so many things at this political side. Then you go to the economic side. We don't have dollars. We are running out of even rupees. So leave the rupee side out, domestic currency out, international currency. They call it bridging finance. You have to get short-term money for us to sustain ourselves.
That's a lot of money. $500 million each month.
Yeah, it is a lot of money, and we are also not in a position to get that. Friendly countries have exhausted their capacity to help, I suppose. India helped us in the last few months,
Yeah.
Substantial amounts. I don't know if there is nothing transparently said that any monies have been coming from friendly countries. No, in financial markets we can't go. Now what happens is we have hired international consultant, financial and legal, and I believe the Lazard Group has prepared the report on the scenarios submitted by the IMF for debt sustainability program, And the reason I believe there is, some analysts say it is being held back or without being presented, and it has to be taken to the IMF for approval. That is because there seems to be a need for restructuring the domestic debt.
Right.
For that, and the Lazard Group doesn't have a mandate to restructure domestic debt.
Okay.
They have only the mandate to restructure the foreign debt. So you have to find a mechanism, because though the highest of the land indicated we have to look at the foreign debt also, local debt also, that will have far-reaching consequences in the banking sector. The bank's capital can get erased or wiped out. You need extra money for capitalization of the banks, and then we will have to have people. It's going to, social unrest can come if people are going to consequently take haircuts on their debts. So they have to come up with a debt sustainability program. So this has to be presented to the IMF for approval. IMF is satisfied if they'll approve. If they don't satisfy, they may not go ahead with the program. So then, after satisfying that, only you can go for the staff level agreement, right? So now it was earlier July, August. Now they say it's in September. So till December, January, February, till the extended fund facility comes into this thing, where with that, at least that announcement being made, then there will be credibility, the financial markets will function. Then you have to implement your debt sustainability program. How are you going to raise revenue? You are going to have an interim budget, right? You have no time for this. So this has to be done in parallel, in tandem, and also other than, I believe, the President, Honorable President, who is, indisputably, he is knowledgeable in politics, economics, and every aspect of fear.
Yes.
No one denies it, but there is no other team.
Well, but isn't it better if Mr. Vikram Singh is having trouble persuading the others to join him, and he has got the party that propelled him into power, he had 134 votes, which is not too bad. It's nothing to be sneezed at when he only needed 113. So he's got 134. Unfortunately, there's also the bus that goes to Angola. But anyway, 134. He needs to put his foot down and say, either you're coming or you're not coming. But I'm going ahead with this, and I've got 134 on my side. And he needs to bulldoze his way through and get it done. And several viewers, thank you very much for your questions. They're all the same. We're waiting for Mr. Gajendran to tell us how to get foreign exchange to the country. What about tourism? Somebody else is asking. What about tourism?
Yes,
infrastructure's in place.
Surely the tourism is a good option. We have lost, our tourist revenue has been wiped out. I don't think we are having even $1 billion for a year now.
We're not. I don't think we're even having 100 million.
Yeah, so no, some tourists are coming in, but there again, I told you, tourism has to be looked at it separately, and some expert group has to look into it and make sure that they have the fuel is provided for the tourist industry. You have to find it, otherwise tourists won't come. You have to give them the insurance, whether you are going to get them without the insurance or with insurance.
Well, I know this for a fact with the UK market, that the travel advisory by the British government has resulted in insurance companies saying, no, sorry, we're not going to give you any insurance unless there's a hefty premium, a loading. So in my book, it's rather simple. The Sri Lankan government, they own things like Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. They can put together a package underwritten in overseas markets so that there's no doubt that they'll get paid in foreign currency and all that. And because what is the extreme position? The maximum they'd want in terms of losses, I'm no actuary, but what is the maximum? It's probably an air ambulance back to repatriate. And in the last 10 years, how many times have we ever used air ambulances? Maybe in the Easter bombings, maybe. So why can't they get their act together? Focus, 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 and get tourism going again. We've got the infrastructure, the hotel rooms are ready, the staff are ready. hoteliers are crying out because all they've ever got from this government is a moratorium on their debt repayment, which is merely postponing the inevitable. What do you say about this?
I think the problem is, we know, as you say, there are multiple solutions which can be evaluated and best course of action can be selected. But my view is that many of the parliamentarians who are supposed to be our leaders don't care for us, many of them. And they are in another world.
Well, they are.
They are in another world.
Tell me, if you've seen some recently, what kind of vehicles are they traveling around in?
It's larger than life vehicles.
Yes, exactly.
S500. You know, you might have only one vehicle and you have no other choice to go.
Yeah.
But this is the time, if you are talking of austerity and tightening the belt for the people, and you are not telling they are suffering. There is no question about it. Everyone is suffering. Everyone.
I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? If the Prime Minister turns up in a Maruti to the cabinet meeting.
Leave the Prime Minister out.
Okay, what about the governor of the central bank?
Yeah, so those people have to give the example. You have to lead by example, no?
Yeah.
Right? You know, if Abdul Kalam, I mean, 3 days before he died, he was in Sri Lanka. He was telling, if you are a leader, you must ask, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? First, you must do it for yourself. Right? So that is very important, because, you know, it looks preposterous. I mean, you know, we don't have fuel.
Yeah.
So you can't burn. Those vehicles are not made for when they go for Parliament.
Yeah.
You can see, you know, sometimes Parliament is encircled and the vehicles come and that go back. Is you know, some of those vehicles is larger than their hearse that they will travel in. You know, so it's
well, okay, but honestly, you must lead by example.
That is the reason this Parliament has no legitimacy, because it has lost the confidence of the people, and people are clearing, and that's why we are not moving from nowhere to nothing. So it is the President is omnipotent, he is all powerful. So he need not worry about anyone now.
Exactly.
He
so
doesn't need to worry about
if
anyone.
People aren't heeding his call to join an all-party government.
So but the point is, all-party government also now, even the opposition, I don't know whether most of them want an election, right? So if they are saying you want an election, then get together and fix the election, fix the abolition of the presidency or whatever it is, then you have a common ground to come together. Now they are saying, no, we can't come under this setup because the president is all powerful, no point coming under this. Right? So if that is the case, give the solution, work together. I think the president is prepared to talk to these people. So you have to see, otherwise what happens is, we were very, very hopeful that we will get this IMF facilities by end of, by somewhere, and they say
yes,
no,
but to
December.
do that you need a plan.
I think it's going to take longer.
Yes,
it might take longer. So
for
that means your bridging finance, your cap what is in your funding. So it's going to be, and don't forget that Sri Lanka is now a supplicant. Right? So we have no choices. We are going to be dictated by others. Because if we don't behave in your home, you don't behave, the neighbors will come and tell you how to behave.
What a sad state of affairs, especially because under the Rajapaksa administration, the favorite word was patriotism. Either you're with me and you're patriotic, or you're not with me and you're a terrorist. And what a sad state of affairs for our wonderful country to be like in that situation, that we are now going to be dictated to. I think it's terribly, terribly sad. What do you think?
The people are speaking, they are, I think, tired at the moment. They are giving a chance because the queues have vanished. Queues have vanished. That doesn't mean we have fuel plenty. We are, it's, I think,
20 liters.
Yeah, scale down consumption. You can't help it.
No, I know that, but you try and give a tourist car or a van 20 liters. Yeah. He ain't going much far.
Yeah, he will. I mean,
he can go from Katunaika to Alla and then sit there and wait until another 5 days or 6 days goes, unless of course he agrees with the passenger to arrive on one day before his next due date. But all this, what it means is, we may not have the queues, but our economy has come tumbling down.
Yeah.
And That's the question. How do we get out of that we are looking for? We'll come back after the break, shall we? And we'll look at the headlines with the Primetime News team. We'll see you on the other side.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with the tax specialist, Mr. N.R. Gajendran. And our question directly from the public today is the breakdown in law and order with the number of Chicago-style killings taking place is also a cause for the failure of tourism. Do you agree?
I don't know. It can have an impact on tourism if it is publicized. It's a tragedy, and it's alarming to see.
Imagine the horror of Dr. and Mrs. Schmidt, name picked out of the things. If they're lounging about on a beach in Hikkaru or Bentoto or Pasikuda, and imagine that a body, hands and feet bound, turns up on the beach. What kind of a disaster will that be?
The tragedy is that no one from the authorities coming forward and trying to explain what is this. So there are no arrests made. They are not. I don't know. It's happening every other day.
What about all these fellows who've been shot or mysteriously lose their life when they're taken to a police station? Somebody was helping the police with their inquiries. Some suspect taken to some quarry. Oh my God! He slipped and he fell. People have stopped believing all this. People have got even more skeptical.
That is true. We have lost credibility. People, not only people, the financial markets, foreign markets, even our own people living abroad, they don't trust this environment, because if you see the foreign remittance from expat staff, which was $600–700 million for a month in the past so many years. Last year total came to about $5 billion, I suppose. This year is only $250 million. So it's you yourself is not having faith and trust and confidence in your home.
Indeed.
So it's a nightmare.
So how's the best way, if you were to have a dispassionate discussion with the Prime Minister, with the President, and maybe the Prime Minister, what would you say to them? Where is the priority? What is number one? I know you said many things. But
number one is immediately you have to restore credibility and legitimacy, and you have to make sure all these shonky parliamentarians and imbeciles leaders are not in the scenario. People, you have to do that. You can't you can't expect the guys, many of the guys who are in parliament, to make life-changing decisions for you, and their decisions will affect your livelihood and life itself. People are going now. They say by end of the year there will be half the population below the poverty line. It's a tragedy for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka can't be in this position.
But whilst this tragedy is playing out in Sri Lanka, media have reported, some media have reported, that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the former president, but once a president, always president, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was or is reportedly spending an awful lot of money, and he ain't paying with rupees, on his stay overseas. Many people are asking us, how, in this crisis, how did GR pay Sing dollars 10,000 per day for a presidential suite, the chairman's suite, at Marina Bay?
What the government needs also is communication with the people, frank, open communication with the people, and transparency. Forget that one. Accountability is one aspect which we don't have. They have to be KPIs and key performance indicators for these parliamentarians, ministers, when they are doing jobs. It's not a doing the job. They are coming there as a privilege. It's not a serious affair for them. But what is lacking, I feel, is interaction and communication with the people, truthfully saying, now this is a question, this is lot of people are asking this question, then someone in the government with as authority has to come and say, yes, we are doing this, we are not funding it, we don't know how it is, or yes, we are doing it and this is the reason we are doing it. Right? And it was reported in the media that someone has asked to extend the stay in Singapore. Whether it is true, if it is true, nothing wrong, there must be a reason.
What you're suggesting is
you have to communicate because that is the way, that's the way we will know where we are, and we will have truthfully, transparently. Why can't you do? We are already hit the bottom, or we are still.
But dear Minder said to some media that his brother hadn't run away, that he'd gone for a medical.
At least he's saying that, no?
Why did he? Which hospital? Normally, the Maldivians come to Sri Lanka for medical treatment. Which kind of medical treatment do you get in Mali, apart from peace of mind, because you can go and stay in a water?
But he was there only for a day, no?
Yes, I know. So then he had to run off to Singapore.
Yeah. Singapore, there are good hospitals.
Of course there are. But what about the bill at whichever this hotel is, if it's all true?
So that's not our concern, but the concern is
the people.
People is that whether it's government money is being used.
Yeah.
Then they have to come and say, no, it's not being used, or if it is being used, this is the reason. Right? So if you don't say that, then it's going to be, the mistrust, distrust, credibility.
And there's another question. How about going back to this whole issue of the dollars and the missing dollars, as in shortage of dollars or foreign currency? Somebody is saying, how about export promotion as opposed to sports promotion?
Yeah, we have to diversify exports. This has to be an export-led economy because we are over-reliant on imports. So we have to, export should be the engine of growth. There's no question about it. This has to be diversified in a expeditious manner. But unfortunately, because of the foreign currency strain we have, people are finding ways and means, rightfully or otherwise, not to bring in money here. So we have to reverse all those things, those state of affairs.
So in a nutshell, correct me if I've missed a point here or two. In a nutshell, what you're really saying is that what Sri Lanka is facing today is the result of years and years of robbing, state-sponsored robbing, excessive amounts on tenders and whatever it is, fancy projects which we probably didn't need, and so on. And today, all these huge expenditure where there's no possible repayment possible at the beginning, and today we are facing this problem because it is an accumulation of all this high spending. I think it was Anila Das Bandanayake who said that we've been leading a champagne lifestyle with a kasipu income.
Champagne lifestyle for a bootleg economy.
For a bootleg economy.
Champagne lifetime for a bootleg economy.
So in a way, the people must realize that when they believed all these people's stories and cast their vote for these people, that they were making a humongous mistake, and we are living today and paying for it because we didn't think before we voted. The March the 3rd declaration urged the people to think before you vote. I know that this network carried that message out so often at our cost.
There again, various institutions have to communicate and inform and enlighten the public, because this can repeat. This can repeat. They say we have short memories. Now that queues have gone off, people might think it's okay, but of course now life is unaffordable, all that is happening at the same time. So it's it's impolitic decision making, injudicious decision making, and we have had some shonky politicians who have been leading us. all that has to change, and we are live beyond our means. We can't live in this what you call this entitlement culture. You know, we freebies, you can't get freebies, and everything has to be real. Tawdry realism has to prevail. Now, if you can't, you can't get things in subsidy. Of course, even the IMF, everyone says the vulnerable people should be targeted and relief should be granted. It doesn't mean you have to, if you are giving subsidies or cash subsidies or whatever it is, it has to be for the people. Even the taxes that are going to be introduced has to strictly be on the principle of capacity to pay, right? And there is no question about it. And there will be various arguments for neutrality, single rate, you know, that is not going to work because unequal society, we must have unequal form of tax. So it's a combination. It's a difficult thing. And we have to have strong research teams. How are we? Can we name people who are looking into our fiscal matters, financial matters, monetary matters, who in a intellectual way, having learned propositions? It is not there. So, and of course we have two foreign advisors. They come from, there's a limited purpose engagement. So we have to build it, and if you don't have, you have to get people from abroad. If you don't have people, I think there is enough people here also. So it is, we have to have that strong leadership emerging.
I'm sure there's a wealth of talent in our country.
Yeah.
There's loads of people, you know, retired group financial men and so on and so forth, you know, who I'm sure if they're called upon to help will be happy to do so.
So we have to start. We are still not started.
So when is it going to start? It's over 3 weeks since we have a new president.
Yeah. So anyhow, people are giving some time. This can't go forever. This can't go forever because we can't be tight. I mean, we can't.
Urban citizens will give time if they, because they can afford it. But I don't believe that the mass of rurality are going to sit there and wait. Wait for what? They have people to feed, and they have children to be educated.
There's one school of thought that the people in the rural villages are oblivious to what is happening. Apart from they had fertilizer issue farmers, that was for commercial use. For private use, they have food, they say. I don't know, that's what I hear. And fuel, of course, is not a big issue for them, limited purpose. Anyhow, these are different analyses, so we have to come and say there must be a team to say, look here, this segment of the people are affected, this is not affected, so we have to target them, you have to give relief to the others, we can, so it has to be done. This is all hearsay that's going on.
I'd like to invite you, Mr. Gajendran, to visit this building where you are on a working day and visit the government, the secretariat. They will tell you the extent of the suffering of the people out of Colombo. They will tell you. In partnership with other concerned companies, these concerned companies have approached us because we know a thing or two about what's happening out there. And we've been from village to village, from door to door, basically. So I invite you, please come and spend, we'll give you another cup of tea, but you come in and you spend some time and you can hear for yourself, and I'm sure they'll share with you some of the details.
Yes.
Because it is terribly, terribly, terribly sad.
Proof of the pudding is in the eating. Yes, the testing time will be at the next election, where the people are going to make that considered, informed decision in electing their representatives.
Mr. Gajendran, thank you very much for being on Newsline
Thank
Live.
you, pleasure.
And it's not all so sad, but we need to keep our chin up, don't we? After all, we do live in this wonderful land. Take care. Have a great evening ahead. It's now time for Primetime News. God bless you all.